Hello, 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 everybody. Hi, welcome, welcome. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I see we have Caleb, we have Matt, Rory, Lisa, Talia. Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for coming. Some of these names seem familiar, some aren't, so I'm going to assume that some of y'all are new. In the chat, I know that a lot of you guys, I'm still trying to get your audio connected and everything like that, but if y'all would be a dear, let me know what course you're in. So in the chat, type your course, whether it is UX, data analysis, product management. Let me know where everybody is and what you're studying. Okay. Looks like we have a good diverse group here. Okay, so we got Rory in software development. We got Clara in UI design. We have Matt in data analysis. Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for coming. So just so everybody knows, this is office hours. So if you actually wandered into this call and you have no idea what we're doing here, office hours is a casual group call where people can ask questions of a career specialist, me. Susan also does a call as well, which is in the morning for Americans, but it's more like in the afternoon for Europeans. So what we do in this call is that I just give folks space to ask questions about their career, whether it is like I got this random, you know, message from a recruiter on LinkedIn. What does it mean? Maybe you want me to look at your resume. If you do want me to look at your resume, send it to my Slack profile, and then I can get to it. If you have other questions, you can type them in the chat and I'll just go through them, just in the order that I get them. But while we kind of let everybody kind of think about their questions and everything like that, I like to start off these calls with a little bit of a lesson. Sometimes I've done it on interview prep. Sometimes it's been on, how to find recruiters on LinkedIn. Today, I want to talk about working for free. Now, before I get into it, can I get a thumbs up from folks if you can hear me okay? I don't have my headphones in because I had some people saying that I didn't sound, they weren't able to hear me if I moved in my chair with my headphones, which is not quite the thing. Okay, it looks like everybody's saying all good. I get a thumbs up from Lisa, Rory, Matt. Okay, sweet. So everybody can hear me. So yeah, so the topic for today, and don't worry, I'll keep this brief because I have a hard stop at in an hour because I have another student call. But in brief, I want to talk about working for free. So that could be volunteering for a charity, that could be doing a pro bono project for a friend, that could be like an apprenticeship. Why I want to talk about the idea of working for free in whatever context you're in is because I had a student 2 weeks ago, with my last office hours, because I've been out of the office for a bit, asked me about working for free. Now, one of the challenging things about giving advice on this topic is that each one of you guys are in a different place. Not just location, but a different place in your career. You have different financial benefits and burdens. Y'all are different. Everybody here is a snowflake. We're all very unique individuals. So when it comes to the idea of working for free, my advice, or even working for token sums, my advice could vary. So if you're somebody who has 4 children, you live in a high cost of living area, you have a lot of expenses, telling you, a working parent, to like carve out a big chunk of time to work for free for somebody might not make that much sense, or could add undue pressure, which if you're somebody who's maybe like 23 and you live on the cheap, or maybe you live with a bunch of roommates or relatives or something, you might have more time to spend working for free. Now, that also has to do with people's energy levels and stuff like that. Or if you are just in another location, there are some students at the school who are living in countries, in other countries besides the US, Canada, or Germany, where the cost of living is lower. So you can make decent money for your area by doing freelance gigs on Fiverr. And a lot of people establish their Fiverr accounts by doing like 2 or 3 free projects for people. Now, if you don't know, Fiverr is a platform for freelancers. One of the nice things about it is that it does generate its own traffic and stuff like that, so you don't have to worry about trying to pull people to your website. But the problem with it is that there's a lot of talented freelancers who live in countries where they don't need to make that many dollars to still live well. If you live, in Hell's Kitchen in New York City, you're going to need to make more money than maybe somebody who, for instance, lives in Nairobi. So it's hard for me sometimes to tell people work for free or not work for free, or how to pay your dues or get into the door. Now, I will say that none of you on here listed your career change as heart surgeon. Everyone here is working in a discipline that can be done on the computer, or even in the case of my man Blake in the digital marketing program, he can do that on his phone. So you're all working in fields where you can really take the initiative to start a project yourself. You don't have to buy a bunch of expensive equipment or make a business model or get, an LLC or some sort of business scheme. You can literally do a project. Now, when folks want to work for free, or they ask me, Sami, should I work for free to pay my dues, get my foot in the door, everything like that? A lot of times what they are saying is, I need to have experience on my resume. I don't know how to get it. I'm probably going to sign up for some charity outfit like Tech Fleet, or go to a thing like UX Rescue or something like that, and try to be assigned to some charity. Because people just want to get a project, do it, learn, hopefully learn something, and have that bit of experience. Now, with Tech Fleet, which I'm going to put that name in the comments, I've heard pretty good things about. Of course, your mileage may vary, because you could be assigned to be on a project where the leadership maybe doesn't have all their ducks in a row, but you could get on a project where they do. Now, oftentimes for a Tech Fleet project, you are going to be getting the experience of working in a team and all that good stuff. That is an option that a lot of our students try. Now, what I would really recommend thinking about is going beyond the confines of these different nonprofit or volunteer outfits, or these apprenticeship programs by startups, and thinking about what you can create as a meaningful project for yourself. Because one, a lot of times when people say, should I work for free? They haven't answered some basic questions like, what industry in the tech field, what direction do I actually want to go into? They aren't thinking like, is this project going to benefit me? Is it going to impress an interviewer? Am I going to be gaining either new skills, improve weak skills, or keep polishing up my strengths. They're also not thinking, is this going to be something that is going to be very draining? So I might not have energy to pursue my job hunt. Now, how you kind of go, and then the last concern is often, what kind of portfolio piece will I get from this? And I've definitely had some students who were excited to work with a startup on a project, or maybe a local business owner or something like that, and then found out that they were under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so they couldn't even put this on their portfolio. So if I was going to tell you, like, here are some universal rules for working for free or getting some first experience before you get into a job, my first bit of advice would be, make sure that this project, whatever it is in alignment with your goals. If you're somebody who wants to work in wellness and you have no interest in the financial field, you have no interest in a B2C project, business to consumer, or whatever your interest level is, but you go for a project that is the opposite of what you want to do. Maybe it's a lot of UX research instead of, interfaces or something like that. How much is that project going to help you? It might not. So you can't be so desperate for an opportunity that you leap on whatever thing seems open, because one, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated because it's not taking you in the right direction. It's going to be maybe hard for you to talk about this project in other interviews if you're trying to interview just in fields that you're interested in. And you might be saying, Sami, I'm not a princess or anything like that. I would love to just get into a job, any job. Now, I've been doing career services for about 10 years. I can tell you people are more picky sometimes than they think, especially when they're offered options. So I'm not saying that you have to be a princess or anything about this or overly precious, but have a direction in mind, because that's going to make it easier for you to decide what projects are worth your time, how to position your personal brand, and how to do stuff. So, like I said, make sure that these projects are in alignment. The second thing that I would say is take the self-initiative to search your personal network for a project, because I'm willing to bet most of you know somebody, or they know somebody, even if you're like best friend's cousin, there's somebody in your personal network that either has like a side hustle, or is trying to be an influencer, or has a small business, or even has like a band, or they're trying to publish a book of poetry. You all know somebody who could find your tech skills useful. So for instance, I'm going to use Blake as an example. Blake is in the digital marketing course. There is pretty much no business owner or influencer or, freelancer who would not mind having a digital marketer around. So even if Blake was going to have a project where he reached out to, let's say he has a friend who has a yoga studio and says, hey, I'd like to create a case study for my portfolio because I'm career changing. Naturally, this friend is going to be more biased towards them, and is more willing probably to help them out, especially since this could be a win-win. So Blake could say, can I, add analytics, Google Analytics, and the heat mapping software to your website so I can direct traffic to your sign up page and utilize your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever as a marketing funnel for 3 months. or for 2 months or whatever, you know, and that would be a project where it's contained. It helps somebody that you know, and it's with somebody that is going to give you the grace and the faith to work on this project, you know, and get it done for them. And because it is a friend, and because you are setting up the confines of this hypothetical project, Blake, you can set the time limits, which leads me to my other bit of advice is that you always want a time limit for any free project. You don't want to be somebody's serf forever. So, an example is like, let's say for Lisa, who is a full stack web developer. If you are going to, like, let's say your grandma's church has an out-of-date website, maybe it's not accessible on all devices, maybe it's something where it just is just clunky and out of date, and you could do a project to just give it a bit of a facelift, where it could be more responsive on either tablets or mobile devices. Maybe you're not going to reinvent the wheel, but it's a project that you could bust out in like a month or 3. You know, it's a good project. You can bust it out. You can hand over deliverable. And the nice thing about doing that, Lisa, is that you would be able to have a project, but you can tell somebody, okay, I did this thing, I set this up, but I'm not going to be your free webmaster for the rest of my life. So that's one of the most important things for folks to keep in mind. Now, I've had people join in, join out, come in, come out of the room, which is completely cool. But one thing to keep in mind for folks who are new, I'm doing this little lesson in the beginning, and you can drop your questions, even if they're unrelated to the topic, in the chat. So do that and queue up your questions, then I'll transition into answering them. I just really wanted to talk about free work because I've seen students go down the route of trying to find some sort of experience making opportunity and running into some pitfalls. So the next bit of advice I'm going to give about these projects is try to get some sort of token payment. Even if it's a small thing, like let's say you're in one of our data programs, we have Matt and Talia in here. Let's say you have a connection who works at a animal shelter or some sort of animal rescue, and they have a bunch of data from their fundraising and their donations, and maybe, you know, just their engaged group of volunteers and stuff like that, but they don't know how to clean up this data. They haven't been able to see any patterns. Maybe it's hard for them to apply to grants. A simple data cleanup project is still something that for my data people, that could be a small little case study where you show in real time how you took some unorganized information, created and looked for patterns, and then created some suggestions for a real organization on how they could improve. Data cleanup projects, that is something that is definitely useful for most companies, especially if they haven't really had someone to do that in a while. It is a function that many entry-level data people do. There are other data sources besides folks that you know. If you aren't sure of where to find data sets, like let's say you're like, okay, that's great, but I don't know anybody who has a data set that's big enough to be worth my time. You can look up data sets on the internet. I know that Amazon has a bunch, but just let me know if you need a data set. But you can also reach out and see what's going on in your community. You can also do that sort of data cleanup for maybe, you know, somebody who does drop shipping or e-commerce or has been selling on eBay and has a bunch of insights or something like that. That would be a perfectly good project. Okay, for my folks who are in UI and UX, one bit of advice that I would give to all of you guys, but especially those who are in UX and UI, is think about how you can have a small project. Because what happens for a lot of folks with UX and other fields is that students make things so complicated. It has to be a full product life cycle, when oftentimes you can provide great value to a local business or a local freelancer with a small service. So one of the things that I've seen freelancers offer, and it's pretty useful and it can lead to more, is like one, offering a UX style audit for a business's website, specifically the sales page. The more that a UX designer can get comfortable and strategic about the fact that you're working for businesses whose bottom line is to make more money, the better off you can be in this economy, where what I've noticed is that the people who are doing best on the job market right now in UX design are the people who can articulate business goals. They have a business objective. So if you can create a small project, no matter what your discipline, but particularly in UX and UI, if you can create a small project where you can articulate how this could add more revenue, save money, what have you, that can be a solid project that can really make an impact, whether you're presenting it at an interview or someone's just looking over your portfolio to vet you for a project. So I know that this topic, working for free, and the thing is, like, I don't always say do it. Part of why I encourage students to find their own projects and kind of take that self-initiative is, one, you learn more. Two, you can earn something with this, especially if you reach out to your personal network, where people are more likely to want to support you and maybe even just give you even just a token sum for your work. So that would be my suggestion, is instead of just relying on some like charity or service like Tech Fleet to choose you, go out there and start hitting the pavement. Start with your personal network, then move on outward, because this is also good networking in a sense, because you're letting people know about your career change. So if they see any opportunities, they can let you know. And as you're kind of like maybe expanding from just your friends to friends of friends, you know, to local businesses that you can reach out to, because I'm willing to bet that, let's say, you know, one of y'all has an interest in wellness or yoga. I'm willing to bet that if you reached out or went to a couple yoga studios in your town, or maybe the yoga studio that you go to, and say, hey, you know, I have some suggestions on how to improve this website, you know, here's a little like 3 takeaways of what could be improved, you probably get a yes. And then they're going to tell other people, and then you're going to have a testimonial on your website, and you're going to build up your name in your area, because you're actually going to go straight to the people who are hiring web developers or data people, and it gives you something to talk about in interviews as a project. So that's why I very much encourage you guys to be self-starters. Make sure that your projects have a firm time limit. Try to get at least a token payment when possible. Understand that you can use these sort of free projects or low-paying projects or freelance projects as networking. The more people who know your work ethic, the more people can actually vouch for you. So guys, I don't want to go too long on this point, but I really wanted to talk about why, when, how you can work for free, because I've had students ask me that before, and I think people want a yes or no answer, and it really depends on you. If you have a lot of time and you're living in a place where the cost of living is low and you only need to work a certain number of hours, sure, do some charity projects, especially if it's in alignment with what you actually want to do. But if you're just desperately seeking experience and you're like, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that because I'm worried about the job market, but you're not thinking strategically, then you're wasting time, you're wasting effort, and you're not thinking with your tech hat on. Most of you guys are in programs that really do want the professionals to have some level of business savvy. So being able to show your own projects that were self-directed, that maybe had a business focus, that helped people, in like a real world way, that is going to be more compelling than hypothetical projects, or in a volunteer project where maybe you're not too proud of it because it doesn't really mean too much for you. My last point of advice is that if you do a volunteer project or you have an unpaid internship or something like that, don't be dismissive of it in your interview. It's wild to me how many students I've worked with who will work on an unpaid internship for 6 months, which in my opinion is too long, but they'll work on something for 6 months, they'll deliver professional grade stuff, and then they barely talk about it, or they act all kind of like shy and bashful, like it was like a weekend, design sprint instead of a whole slog. If you're going to work for anybody for free, you need to be as proud of it as you would be if you were on a payroll. Because if you weren't acting confident in that interview, that recruiter can't read your mind and be like, oh, this is just a modest person, or oh, this person's just shy, or maybe they got a tummy ache or whatever. They're going to think, okay, this person's not confident in this. Did this really exist? Did this happen? Is this more of a, like a maybe a couple hours a week thing? If you're not adding significance to your projects, nobody else will. Okay, so that was like my little bit of a lesson today. If you have any questions on that point, particularly how to reach out to folks, templates that you can use to pitch yourself as an intern or apprentice at a startup, things like that, let me know. I started freelancing initially with web and graphic design when I was like 15, 16. I have continued to do a lot of different varieties of freelancing because I come from I live in Tucson, which has never been a great economy. So I've always found ways to supplement and stuff like that. Because working for a lot of nonprofits, I've been on grant projects and things like that. Sometimes it can be unstable. So I have a deep well of experience in going out on my own, creating projects, lead generation, and I would love to be a source of support. So Clara wants to know where I have these templates. Okay, what I'm going to do is share. I have them on a little free page that I made for students. So I'm going to drop the first link. These are a variety of internship templates along with instructions. So the first one is a template that I've had many students use before. Actually, the student that I developed it with was a UI student in Louisiana who really wanted to work in gaming. and sports and stuff like that. And he used that to pitch a media agency that does all the stuff for the New Orleans Saints for the football team down there. So check out that template. There's instructions. Now, there's also I interviewed a marketing freelancer back in the day about how they, in a very lean fashion, first started freelancing. Because I hear that all the time. How do I start this? People always overthink it. They go kind of like they put the cart in front of the horse. This breaks it down and tells you how you can start a business with one email. Now, is that going to be like a full-on business plan, LLC, you're making 10 million a year? No, but this is how you get the ball rolling and trying to get those first clients in. I find that even if you don't want to be a freelancer or be an agency owner or anything like that, like taking at least one project that you do for your personal network or something like that, it's a good experience because one, it helps you get confident. One of the great things about Career Foundry is that you have mentors, but one of the hard things for some people is that they get used to mentors as like a crutch, as training wheels. And doing a project for yourself means that you have to actually take the initiative, develop that discipline, kind of roll with the punches, figure out what works, what doesn't. And if you do it for a friend, they're going to be a lot easier on your learning curve. So I dropped those two things in the chat. Now, we've had people go in and out. For those who just came in, I just finished a whole thing on stuff to know about working for free, why to do it, why not to do it. I recorded it, so I'll share this the next day. Right now, we're going to start with Q&A. And people have already put their questions in the chat. It's funny, I did share the document on my pitch template in there, so enjoy that. I'm going to go through people's questions. First come, first serve, like ice cream. So if you have a question or a resume or something that you want me to look at, let me know in the comments. If it's a resume, or have you send me a URL to the Google chat or send me a DM. Go do that and I can check it out. But let's start with the first question listed. Okay, so Pragati says, I am starting a 3-month volunteer UX designer gig, unpaid. Couple of questions. One, should I update my resume to reflect the change? Simply put, yes. Every time you guys add to your resume, doesn't matter how long this project is, add it to your resume as a new update. Why? If you don't have experience in this field, that's at least something. And you might be thinking, okay, well, what if I apply to a job that day, but if it's only day one of that project or internship? It takes most companies at least 2 weeks to even go through resumes and get back to people. I know that it seems like with the age of easy apply and having so many automatic tools to get back to people, it's easy to forget the fact that a human is going to look at your stuff. A human is going to be the ultimate decision maker. So you would still have time to get some more progress on that project. But I would suggest anytime you have something new, especially if you don't have a whole lot of experience in the field, go update the resume. 2, I've signed an NDA. How do I show the work on my portfolio? Okay, so I hate seeing this because it's just this startup having you do a bunch of crap for free. And what benefit? So I would have and sometimes startups just add NDAs to things because they think that's what big boy companies do. So what happens is that you get some boilerplate NDA that in some cases might give you a lot of wiggle room. So I would sit down with whoever's your supervisor and say, hey, you know, this is a great project. I'm very curious to know what I can put in a case study or portfolio piece about this. What is the best way to navigate this? Now, if you are under an NDA, and they're like, no, there's no wiggle room. You don't put nothing on there. You don't speak about us. You don't even talk to your mama about what you're doing here. Unless you're working for the FBI, which I'm gonna doubt that you are, there's probably not really a reason for it. Because frankly, ideas are cheap. Delivery and implementation is what's expensive. So if it's just like somebody with a big idea that they're afraid that other people might steal, which sometimes you do see that with early stage founders, you can assure them that you can anonymize the data and things like that, but that would just be a good payment, in a good compensation in lieu of payment for your labor. Now, if they don't let you do that, even just a bare minimum, or show a screen cap of something that you did, or even just have like a display page where you can say, you know, this is my project, and have some context like my role, the tools that I use, the objectives that I'm working towards, you know, 3 takeaways. Like that's a bare minimum display, you know, micro project. They're not even letting you do that. Then you have to ask yourself, what am I getting out of this project? One of the things that I really hope to emphasize when I talked about doing free projects and when to say yes to them is the fact that if you are doing something for free, you need to get something out of it, especially if it's not a complete charity like a dog shelter, or you're working with the homeless. If it's just, I'm helping some tech bro with a dream, that ain't a charity, okay? That should be something where, especially if you're not even getting equity, if you're not even getting like the bare minimum of maybe this outfit might make money, then I would really reflect on how much you need that project. What are you actually going to learn? Does it have a big enough brand name behind the company where there is at least some name recognition? And could you get the same level of experience and possibly a token payment of some kind if you just did a project for your local hairdresser? That would be a decision and a thought process that I would have with myself. So, Pragati, I hope that gives you some food for thought. Let me know if you have any questions, and I can return to you. Vita says, hi, Sami, is the recruiting market for UX designers becoming concerning? Is there many candidates these days? The market is less in demand than before? Okay, so in tech right now, there is definitely a correction in the job market for a number of fields. I don't think UX is particularly unique in this way. I feel like it has become a career where a lot of people are interested because it, for rightly or wrongly, some people kind of view it as maybe being easier than web development. Now, I've noticed a lot of folks are spooked about AI. So having a job market where tech companies are reevaluating their priorities after the pandemic, where there are definitely companies that have to maybe show a profit for their investors, or maybe there's been a little bit of turmoil because they haven't had the same level of growth in the last year or two as they did in years past, like big boys like Twitter and Netflix, Airbnb, Uber. So yes, that is a concern. Now, does that mean that you need to particularly worry? No, I feel like the basics are still there. Now, who I feel like should be more worried are the folks who, in a lot of ways, were not super connected to the field, were not actively networking. That could be a concern for you, because what I've noticed is that there are folks who are, of course, getting hired. Many times they have either a networking connection with the industry, or they're bringing a portfolio or previous experience that is related to that company. So it's getting harder out there for generalists. So if you don't have some sort of specialty that you can claim, I think it is going to be harder for you as a UX graduate, because your talking points are just going to be, I'm a hard worker, I'm creative, I'm passionate about intuitive, pixel perfect designs, which is going to be the same talking point as a lot of other graduates, except the ones that are going to rely on any sort of domain expertise, if they have like projects, or if they're actively networking. Now, I don't think that there is less demand for UX designers. I feel like there's right now, the folks who are more strategic and business minded are going to be more in demand. The folks who were, and maybe like not like that were kind of sometimes stereotyped as wireframe monkeys, aka the people who really just made wireframes and they really didn't have any strategy or intentionality behind them. They weren't really thinking about branding or anything like that. Those folks are going to have a difficult time for sure. So yeah, so I don't think that necessarily that it's doom and gloom. I don't think that it's going to be something where the market is falling out of this, because I still see plenty of product and UX design positions out there. I see them sometimes under different job titles though, because I feel like this is definitely a field where the job titles mutate. But I don't think it's going to be an easy job market for at least the next quarter, because I really do feel like tech is going through adjustment, and that is for a lot of fields. So that's for web development too. That's for data folks. That's for everybody who has anything to do with the tech field. So hopefully that does give you some perspective. I'd love to say yes or no and be like, it's going to be this or it's going to be that. But I have done this work with UX designers and tech people for the last 10 years. So tech always goes through this. Feels like every like couple of years, people talk about the downfall of UX, and it hasn't happened. There actually just becomes more growth. There's just more application for it. More companies know about it. But yeah, you do have the fact that there are more schools who are training people. There are more people who are doing mid-level career changes. And I do think it's harder for folks out there who have not tried to work on a real life product to stand out. That's why I very much encourage you guys to be self-starters, and to actually reach out to your community. Find people who are running businesses, go to the tech events in your area. Don't stay in your apartment. Or if you do need to stay in your apartment, I don't know, find a good Discord community. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you, Vita. If you do have any questions, please let me know. Oh, one thing about the many candidates. I don't know if there's as many viable candidates as people think. Yes, there are plenty of people who maybe have done some form of a course on UX design or UI design, whether that is a 3-hour Udemy mini course to something more substantive like Career Foundry, which is pretty much like getting an associate's degree on this topic. There are more people who have done courses. However, there are not as many people who are taking to it as just one discipline, two, like even just in general finishing these courses, and also there's plenty of folks who are just adding this as a toolkit. So if you look around your classmates and you see all of them as competition, understand a lot of them might be just adding design as a toolkit to maybe their project management work. Some people are angling to get a promotion in their current job that they're in. And some people just might decide midway through the course or after they graduate that they're not that interested. That is certainly something that happens. So you have far less competition out there, and nobody is going to be able to have your unique thought process. So that's why I very much encourage students to start developing their own style, their own tools, their techniques, their own process for making this industry work, because then, you're always going to have a unique value proposition. Okay, so I am moving on. If you have questions, like I said, you can drop them in the chat. Lisa says, LinkedIn easy apply, pros and cons. Pro, it's easy. The convenience is the main pro. I feel like there's a lot of cons in the fact that people just randomly apply. And a lot of people are not looking where they're applying. So, that in some way could be seen as a pro, where you already know that you're the other candidates for that role, that you can pretty much discount a quarter to half of them because they might not be relevant, they might not have a work permit, they might just be clicking easy apply because they have to apply to a certain number of jobs for unemployment. They don't really care. I know when I did recruitment, I did have a sort of issue where I would have folks who did not have a work permit to work in America, were on another continent, would apply to jobs and write a cover letter trying to convince me to sponsor them. And I would feel bad for those folks, and I would want to help them, naturally you have empathy, but I'd be working a job requisition where sponsorship was just not possible. And I see that whenever you go to a job listing, and if you have the little LinkedIn analytics, see where the countries where people are coming from. And a lot of times, especially for big brand name companies, you're going to see a good chunk of those people are going to be in Nepal or some random country where maybe they have a work permit to work in the US or in Canada or Germany or wherever, but most likely not. So another one of the cons, or not really a con, but it's a thing to understand, is that whatever is on your LinkedIn profile, your about me, the things that you filled in for the job descriptions, your courses, skills, that will be ported over to the job that you're applying to. So if you have a bare bones LinkedIn, that's what all people are going to see. And it's going to make your application look real lazy. So I don't think it's necessarily bad to use, but if that is your only job search tactic, you're going to need to highly optimize your LinkedIn profile. And you're going to have a strong tolerance for the fact that you could get a lot of rejections and you could get them quickly. Or for the fact that sometimes companies, they forget to close these job listings. So you could hit easy apply, find out that later on that it was already closed or something like that. So you can use it as a tool, but if you discover after looking at your job search tracker, which I hope y'all are having, you're tracking your job search so you can get quality data. And if you are a data analysis student and you are not gathering data for your own job hunt, the shame. You need that data so you can actually make good decisions. So if you find after looking at your job search tracker that you're just hitting easy apply all the time, I would vary your job hunt. The thing is, if it seems too good to be true, it is probably not doing a whole heck of a lot for you. So hopefully that's helpful. I have a lot of feelings about a lot of convenience tools when it comes to job hunting, because the unfortunate thing is the easier it is to do, the more people do it. And oftentimes, the more people do a tactic, the less effective it is. And I've also had students just kind of get freaked out by LinkedIn because it lets you know how many people apply for a job, and they don't think like, oh, I saw the analytics. Half of these people are applying to a San Francisco job, but they're like in, I don't know, India, or they're in China or something like that. So they can't actually get here. So they're not actually competition. They're just people who click easy apply. So Lisa, if you have like a follow-up question on that, please let me know. But like I said, you can use it. Like, don't expect a whole lot from it. Stefania asks, if I do a project for an interview, can I change the names and the data and use it for my portfolio? Yes. Yes, you can. Okay. So we've had people come in and out. We're getting to the last of the text, the chat tip or chat question. So I'll answer this one for Charity, and then if people want to unmute themselves and just verbally ask me a question, you can. But let's see, we got Charity. What are the best networking tips? My best tip is to know how you make friends and how you socialize best. Now, if you are somebody who maybe you have a deep creative well, but you have a short social battery, maybe a better way for you to network is to incorporate some sort of content creation into your job hunt. So let's say you really like podcasting or something like that. You might want to like do like a little 5-minute podcast. This is my journey as a designer or a developer or whatever. And you just maybe like talk about the different books that you learned or the different tools you're using. And it's a small thing, you like doing it, you share it on LinkedIn. That could be a way for you to reach a bunch of people, use that creativity, but not have to feel like you have to talk to all the folks. Now, on the flip side, if you have a big social battery, you love networking and talking to people, you love hosting parties, maybe your networking strategy is to host little coffee chats for other data analysis people or other folks in tech or other people who are interested in cryptocurrency or startups or whatever your deal is. Now, why I'm giving these alternate scenarios is because everybody is still looking for that one true method, and a lot of it is determined by you and how you like to make friends and how you like to socialize. Because like if you're somebody who honestly, doesn't like to socialize a lot, you get tired, the idea of driving downtown and going to a meetup gives you the cold sweats, then you might need to pursue a strategy where you go and you network a lot in Slack communities or in Discord groups or online in some way. I do have a whole list of different Slack communities for folks who'd rather do online networking. So, like I said, my best advice is figure out how you socialize best, because you want to seem positive and confident in whatever networking situation that you're in. My next best tip is to, one, be consistent about it. So don't just go to that one coffee chat and expect someone to give you a job. You want to be consistent so people get to know you, because networking is an investment in your entire career. I work with a lot of mid-levels and seniors for my private coaching, and the ones who don't really make an effort to stay engaged in their community, stay engaged with their industry, like keep their portfolio up to date and stuff like that, those are the ones that need to hire me, because every time they need to find a new job, it is them starting the heck over. When I know other people who, yeah, they might talk to me as like a career tune-up. I have a couple of clients who are like that, who just like to talk to me about clarity and direction, but they've done a good enough job networking and having people who know them that they can start any job hunt by sending out, messages to their network and getting invitations to interviews. You want to be the person who, if you for some reason lose your job on Monday, you have interviews already starting to be lined up for next week, starting by Friday. So you want to be consistent with it because it's not just a one and done thing. And I would also check your expectations. There's a lot of folks who walk into any sort of networking thing with being already annoyed that someone hasn't already offered them a job. Like, oh, I was nice to somebody on LinkedIn and I didn't get anything from it. Other people are not kindness, that aren't vending machines where you drop a kindness coin into them and they give you what you want. The students who kind of want to act like this is a transaction, like I was pretended to be interested in someone for 5 minutes. Why didn't they just immediately hook me up with like a recruiter? Like, you're going to go about this wrong. You're going to be disappointed and you're frankly going to give off a weird vibe to people. So I would suggest going into whatever networking that you going into it with the expectation of you don't know what could come of this, but you're happy to meet new people. It's an investment in your career. You're doing something that, like I said before, you already kind of like doing, and for those of you who are like, okay, socializing is painful, I want to hit two birds with one stone. That's why I really suggest doing portfolio building with other people, whether it is with volunteering for a business or a charity, whether that is doing a freelance project for a business, maybe it's doing apprenticeship for a startup, because then people will know you, they will see you, and hopefully will want to refer you, maybe hire you, maybe tell others about you. So I hope that was helpful for you. Charity, let me know if you have any questions. Rory says, is it still worth it to be a full stack developer in a world with Wix, Squarespace, and AI tools that make many aspects of coding trivial? Yeah, I still think it is, because one, AI isn't there yet. Two, yeah, you might be losing out on the sort of clients that couldn't really afford a developer. So they were using Wix or Squarespace, or frankly, just doing it themselves before. But that wasn't really the folks who would really have a full-time webmaster. So it's not really your demographic anyway. For most of the big websites and stuff like that, or company sites where they have to do e-commerce and stuff like that, and they're making a big sales volume, they need to have their own text. So I don't think the job of a web dev is going away. Now, depending on your level of interest in this topic, I don't know, it might not be worth it for you. If you don't like coding. I've known plenty of people who start off in coding to learn the technical aspect and then move into some form of management. That could be you. If you like coding and you like programming languages, then I don't think you're necessarily going to be replaced. Well, I think with AI that all the really cheap clients who never really wanted to pay people well anyway, they're going to go with whatever bottom of the barrel AI tool that they can find, the cheapest option. They were going to do that anyway. So no skin off your back. I think for some of the folks who were, their talent level was maybe never reaching the point that it should have, they might be in more trouble with AI because they will be easily expendable. But for folks who have passion for it, who have a talent for it, who know who their audience is for their skills, they're going to be fine in web dev. Okay, Lisa says, great feedback. She doesn't really use it because you don't have the opportunity to customize stuff. Yeah, here's the thing, like Lisa, if it's something you want to experiment with, maybe for jobs that you're not super passionate about, or maybe you're just having sort of a rough week where you want to still have applications being sent out, but maybe you just don't have the mental bandwidth, maybe family emergency, whatever. We've all had those weeks where it's like, okay, the bare minimum I can do, I'll do, you know. Easy apply could be good for that. And there's certainly some companies that just have easy apply applications because it's free and easy for them. But yeah. So yeah, okay, I think I've reached the end of the questions. Rory, I'm glad that was both helpful and encouraging. I recently came back from a writing conference, and AI was a big thing. So I went to all the panels that I could and all the discussions about it because I want to see what's coming ahead. And I've already done research for Career Foundry when it comes to AI stuff. And what I have noticed is that if you can incorporate, if you can just understand the applications for AI and how they're being incorporated in different design and development tools, I think that would behoove you. And I think it also, for me, it showed that as a writer, both of fiction and resumes, who's done a variety of different consulting work, personal branding is more important than ever. Because if you don't have a thing that is a personal brand in the sense of, like, here is my specialty of some kind, here's what I'm good for, here's a value proposition. And I'm not saying that you guys need to niche down to, like, I only work with, albino acrobats or something like that. I'm not saying niche down that much, but having an idea of, this is me, this is what I'm good at, and these are the people that I want to help, or the problems I want to solve, that's going to be very helpful for you because you're going to be able to articulate your value. So one of the best things that you can do, Rory, if you don't know how to figure it all out, what could be your brand, what could you be good at, is try different things. So maybe, going off of talking about free projects and everything, maybe you have a friend of a friend who started their own, drop shipping or Shopify business. Right now, I've noticed there is a demand for folks who can code and do modifications to things like Shopify and Wix, WooCommerce. So maybe you discover you're good at that. That could be your niche for a little bit. Maybe through that you discover, oh, hey, I'm pretty good at talking to these business owners about what they need for a website. That could be another specialty. The point is just making sure that you know what you're good at, so you don't hand somebody a generic resume with a little bashful smile and hope that they're able to look into your eyes and read your mind about what you could be good for, because most likely they won't, unless you're a warm referral and they know your auntie or your mama or your daddy's cousin or something like that, and they're just giving you a chance because, well, it's Jerry Bobson. You know what I mean? So you gain confidence by action. You gain knowledge by action. It's something where you get out of your comfort zone, you learn new things. You also can prove to yourself you can do these things when you take action. It should be intentional, it should be mindful, you should be strategic, but you should be doing a thing. And the more that you can kind of go outside, of your comfort zone, especially when it comes to growing your own career, being intentional, really designing your career, the better off you're going to be in this age of AI, whatever it might be, however things shake out. Personally, I don't think a lot of these, whether they're language learning models or the art programs, are that sophisticated yet. I just don't. There's a website called AI Framer, and frankly, it looks like it just randomizes color schemes. So I also think there's a lot of tools where people are just slapping the word AI on it, and it's not really AI. It might be an algorithm, it might be a program, but the intelligence is not artificial. So I don't think the sky is falling. I think that how it's always been, people want to hire people. Show that personality, show that value proposition, and you'll go far. Okay, guys, I'm getting close to my hard stop point because this happens whenever I go on a break and I'm out of the office. I just get kind of slammed with calls from my assigned students. But thank you all for coming today. If you have other questions for me, comments, concerns, queries, or even want to book a call, I do have slots available for unassigned students. You can find them in my Slack profile along with my email. I'll drop my email here if you have a question. I often do pre-recorded video reviews of people's resumes for folks that just don't have a time for a call, or I don't have a time for a call, so you can reach out there. That is my email. And if you guys have been coming to my office hours regularly, I would always appreciate it if you left me a little recommendation on LinkedIn. So I'm going to drop my LinkedIn address so you can connect with me there. If you've enjoyed my office hours, or if you worked with me in a call, leave me a recommendation. I would appreciate it. Okay, folks, I think that is it from me. I hope this was helpful for you. Like I said, if you want to brainstorm project ideas, let me know. I've been kind of fiddling around with the idea of how to just do either a workshop or a thing where I just force students to sit down, send out emails, send out project briefs, figure out a freelancing system. I'm still tooling around with that idea how it would work because, like I said, so many of you guys are in different locations, programs. But I definitely think for those who are like development or design students, like I've freelanced in that way before, so I know how to go about it. We could do something. Anyway, thank you guys, and I hope you have a great day and an even better week. Ciao. Have a good one. Bye.